Hi everyone, welcome to Life Edge, because life just doesn't have to be mediocre. I am joined today by Matthew Santoro. He is a podcaster, he's a musician, he's quite a talented guy. If you haven't seen his work, oh, you'll love it. Anyway, how are you today, Matthew?
Excellent, thank you for having me on.
Oh, thank you for coming on. I've been a big fan of your show. I've been watching you for probably about as long as you've been on. I came across you one day and I went, oh, this is fun. You do very interesting podcasts, like what are the actual names of the podcasts? I just know you by name. So what are the actual podcast names?
Yeah, so I have multiple little businesses that I'm running at the moment. One is my main YouTube channel. It's Matthew Santoro. Yep. The next is my podcast, which is Matthew Santoro Podcasts. And as it says there, I'm an author. I have a book called Mind Equals Alone. And I have a side brand called Fact Maniac, which is what I do, except without me in it. So it's just infographics that I post on social media. But one day, I hope to make it a cartoon. I think it'd be fun.
Well, you do. Some of your podcasts are just fun because you talk like the top 10 scariest houses, or top 10 murderers, or top 50 these, and there's not one I have found that is not interesting. And a lot of work. We were talking pre-show a little bit. You do a lot of work on these things. They're not just cheap productions. You guys have tons of B-roll. You've got adequate stuff. You've got good narration, and you're a great host. You have a lot of engagement in what you do. You're funny. I just went, wow, who is this guy? He's great. Let's get him on the show and see if we can interview him, talk to him, find out what you're all about. I did read on your Wikipedia that you're from Canada originally, Toronto. What brought you out to LA?
Well, definitely not the food. I just want to preface all of this by saying I don't know if I got food poisoning last night or what, but I am not at 100% energy right now, which is so funny too, because on days where I don't have anything going on, I'm completely healthy. But on a day like today where I've got this, and then later on I've got a movie premiere that I got to go to, it's like a football, I would get sick. So, that's just kind of the law of the universe, I suppose. But yeah, we're here, we're rocking it out. The reason I came out here, just a life adventure. I've lived in Canada my whole life, and my whole family has. My grandparents came to Canada from Italy, and after I moved here, I realized that I'm the first one since then to make such a huge jump. The difference is, I came here able to speak the English language with money in the pocket, whereas they had zero money and don't speak Italian.
Yep, that's true. Do you speak Italian?
No, I don't.
No, you don't.
Though. Yeah. It's not a priority. Like, people always say things like, oh, I don't have time. And I never accept that excuse. Everybody has time for everything. It's just what matters to you. So I don't lie. When people say, where's the podcast? I say, it's just not that important to me right now. I absolutely have time. But it's more important right now for me to read, to go out and do a lot of social things. I'm really enjoying, the impact it's having on my mental health, reading and seeing people and having a positive impact. So, I just go with what makes me happy. And, the podcast will be back, though. It's taking a little, 1 month break.
Yep. And you know what's funny? You're saying something that happens to a lot of people like us on YouTube. You get tired every so often. You need a break. And they said that, actually, it's really sad. I know 2 podcasters over the last 2 years that have committed suicide. And you're like, ay. And you'd never know. And it's like, man, that just sucks. And they just seem really happy, and one day they're gone. And you went, and sadly, and I know it's a downer topic, but it's something that happens to podcasters for some odd reason. And you go, I don't know what it is. I mean, I like what we do. I think you enjoy what you do. You could tell when you're doing your performances and stuff. But there comes a time you need a break. And that, like you said, for the mental health and the clarity and keeping up on everything, it's good to get out of in front of that computer every so often, isn't it?
Of course. Absolutely.
Yeah. It's true. Now, what made you? Now you've got Santoro. It's a good Italian name. I was going Italiano. I didn't know you were from Canada at first. What made you choose some of the topics you talk about? Because they're actually different. They're interesting. They remind me of all the spooky books I read when I was growing up. All these books about like factoids about these people died here and these people whatever, and strange things that happen, and some of them are fascinating, like the coincidences. You've done some on coincidences that are just really into, like the cruise liner person that died on this, but when the ship collapsed, she was on it, but she was also on the other ship. I think that was an Argentine lady or something, and I was going, that's fascinating. But they're really interesting things that not only are you talking about, but people talk about afterwards. And I think that's yeah.
That's my aim for with my channel. Like I used to write everything myself, come up with all the topics myself, shoot myself, edit it myself. It's just too much.
Yeah.
And then over time, I got on, some writers and some editors, and yeah, it just made the process a lot easier. And when I come up with these topics, my writers now submit to me topics every week, and I decide which ones I want. They write them for me, and then my goal is to make my content shareable, not necessarily just online, but in real life. I want people to say, I learned recently that there's certain types of jellyfish that are biologically immortal, and I just learned that Hitler started the first ever anti-smoking campaign, like things like that. Yeah, people don't realize this stuff, but when you watch my videos, I feel like it gives you party banter.
Yep.
So I have a question.
Oh, you're in here. I didn't know Susan was in. Hi, Susan.
Hi there. Yeah, sorry about that. I just I didn't realize. Well, anyway, so gremlins.
Hi.
Anyway, so hi. So I have a question. So, if in doing the podcasting and getting a lot of publicity and exposure and things, I mean, like it or not, there are a lot of people who just simply like to troll, and they enjoy being just really vicious. And do you think that's part of what makes people like you were talking about, Rick, people committing suicide? How do you deal with people who are just being aggressively negative just to be that way?
Well, for me, I can only speak for myself. I only can have compassion for those people. If someone comes on my channel or on any of my socials and leaves hate, that says more about them than it does about me.
Yeah.
If it's a post that's something really positive, or it's me and a girl, or it's me and the new books I'm reading, anything like that, there's always going to be some people that leave one or two negative comments. But when you see that, you really have to look at it as, wow, what's going on in their life that's causing them to act like this? Don't worry about the words. Don't worry about the perceived message that they're trying to give. None of that matters, because just like many things in life, intent is more important than the actual words. So when I see things like that, it's not that they're saying, well, your videos suck and you're ugly. In fact, frequently, I reach out to that person privately, and I'll say, hey, like, what's going on? And sometimes they're shocked, and sometimes, pretty much they're always shocked, and they almost always apologize, and they'll say, my parents are getting divorced, or I just broke up with my girlfriend, and I didn't know where to put my anger. But then once in a while, there are people that just say, hey, F you, you suck. And then in that case, then, that's what the block button's for, right? That's somebody that's just actually bad vibes and possibly evil, right? So
you're a friendly sociopath.
Well, here's a specific example. Okay, so I'm really amazed at how quickly people went from being really excited about Meghan Markle to being just completely filled with I don't know, just rage and spite and hate. And it's what happened? And how did that? Do you have any insights? I mean, that seemed to be a social media phenomenon. I mean, one the hyping, and then the madness of crowds. It reminds me of that the classic book on popular delusions and madness of crowds. I mean, just herd mentality.
Yeah.
What happened? Do you have any theories?
I really don't. I wasn't even fully aware that was happening. I don't keep up with, you know, the TMZ trends of the week and stuff like that. You know, no judgment, by the way, to anyone that does, but for me, through my studies of mindfulness and meditation and things like that, those things in the drama websites of the world severely contribute to the egoic mind of the world, and it's creating so much unconsciousness that I just can't subject myself to that.
Yep.
Now, do I understand that there is a lot of entertainment value in it? Yeah, of course, 100%. Look, there's still times when once in a while I'll be like, ooh, like, juicy news article. Okay, let's see what's going on with Meghan Markle, for example, right? But for the most part, I stay away from them. But I do recognize that they have a place. You know, all of these things, even if it's not even necessarily the TMZs of the world, it could be Trump, or it could be any political leader that's doing something wild in the moment. A celebrity, who knows, anybody. These things all have their place in this world, because as the egoic mind continues to become more, the collective egoic mind of the world continues to become more and more insane, the function of these people that are highly unconscious, they serve to accelerate that madness in the world. And you might be wondering, like, why is that a good thing? It's a good thing because one of two things is going to happen. It's going to either make us evolve as a species and make more and more people start seeking out meditation, mindfulness, and things of that nature, or it's going to get so insane that we destroy ourselves. So we have two ways of going in that direction. I personally am an optimistic person. I very much think that it will result in the next human evolution, which is going to be a mental one as opposed to a physical one, like getting an 11th finger or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I agree with you.
Do you think it's like and it could be kind of a choice too, like, you know, you stay in samsara and experience what that is without actually like going all the way into samsara. So it's like, I can try a little bit of chaos because it's too much work to meditate.
Mm-hmm. Sure, and you know, you make a good point. Like, watching these things, whether it's the Meghan Markle stuff of the world or whatever drama of the day it is that people want to latch onto to feed their ego, it can be a really good exercise in patience, in staying present. You know, like, for example, I was staying in Toronto with my friend Evan, and we were at the gym and CNN was on, and he turned it off. And I said, why did you do that? He's like, dude, I'm not watching that. Like, Trump was on. That's poison. I don't want to listen to that. It's bad for your brain, et cetera, et cetera. And while I couldn't agree more, I kind of devil's advocated the whole thing. And I said to him, what if you left it on and was just okay? Like, what if you left it on and recognized that something bad was happening, quote unquote bad, in the corner, but instead of trying to stop it or shut it off, you just kind of sat with it and said, you know what, okay, I'm just not going to absorb this. There's someone talking in my ear. They're talking about what Trump tweeted today. I'm just going to be okay with it. You know what?
That's brave.
Yeah. No, I tell you, it's funny. I don't dislike Trump, but I really think you shouldn't go on Twitter. It's like, oh, gosh.
By the way, when I talk about Trump, it's not to talk about Trump.
No.
That's just one.
It's an example. Yep. Yeah.
Now, you know,
Matthew, there's an interesting trend going on, which I just discovered literally about a couple of weeks ago. I was talking to a friend of mine, and he said, I teach martial arts on the side, so I know about meditation and everything. And a friend of mine is also a teacher on the side. And there's a movement, and this is among some kind of more extreme religious types. I have no problem what religion anybody is, but it's really odd that this version, and it's basically a Christian group, I guess, or group of, and they say that if you do anything quote unquote new age, which encompasses a billion things, so anything like a martial art, meditation, then it's evil and antichrist. I was going, whoa, now that's an interesting take on things. I find that odd, but that's some of what's going on now. And I go, is everybody's mind just closing more and more until all groups eventually close themselves into a cocoon and we're done? It's just bizarre. It's just bizarre because there's so many good things you can take out of so many good things, or even not so good things. And yet like you said, we're spinning towards something quickly. And I'm like you, I believe it's something good, but the human race is a little goofy sometimes. It could also be something bad. I hope not. But it's really interesting. And the internet seems to have joined the lunacy together, which is a little even more scary.
Well, first of all, it's important to point out that it'll get much worse before it gets better.
That's true.
So before the collective consciousness of the world wakes up, there's going to be more and more division. So you already see the rise of nationalism happening.
Yeah.
You already see people not willing to have a discussion and say things like, okay, you have your point of view. Tell me why that is. People don't do that, especially in America. It's just, you don't believe what I believe, you're wrong, that's it, end of discussion. The days of having a discussion are largely gone. Now, that being said, again, that's not a bad thing. And the reason it's not a bad thing is because it's accelerating the madness of the world, accelerating this evil of mind. And that's a good thing because it's going to force more and more people to say, okay, hold on, is there something else out there? Because this constant 24-hour coverage of what this individual is tweeting or what the new scandal is, like, is there something else? It's getting so bad over here, it's making people go like this. And over here is the separate factions of people that are literally splitting away from the madness of the world and finding things like meditation and Buddhism and Christianity, whatever. And by the way, you made a good point. These things are not mutually exclusive. I have a friend who's a devout Christian, and when I talk about the chakras and when I talk about Buddha and things like that, that's right down. She doesn't want to have that conversation. And I said, why do you react that way? Like, not out of defensiveness, I'm very careful because I don't want my ego to be activated by her ego, right? So I stay in a state of curiosity and I say, why? Like, why do you feel that way? No, because, God was a man and that's what the book says. And I thought, oh, this is fascinating. Like, and this is a good friend. I'm like, oh, this is fascinating. You truly, literally believe what this book said, right? Which is actually very dangerous. You should never believe literally what the Bible said. It was, during that time, things were written in allegories, right? So things were written in story to help portray the moral behind them. But the Buddha did the same thing, and Lao Tzu did the same thing in the Tao Te Ching. There have been select groups of enlightened individuals throughout the millennia that have shown a glimpse of what was possible, but we just weren't there yet. Right. Jesus was one of them. Jesus Christ, he was one of them. Before him, about 600 years before that, was the Buddha and Lao Tzu. They were both alive around the same time. The Buddha has the darn it, what's it called? Dhamma. Starts with a D. I apologize. It's escaping me. Food poisoning. I'm a little
Dhammapada.
Dhammapada. Yeah. That. So I'm waiting to read that right now. That's my next book. But the Dhammapada, and then obviously Christianity have the Bible, even though Buddha actually wrote the Dhammapada. But the point is, you've got Lao Tzu with the Tao Te Ching, and all of these enlightened individuals tried showing the way in a world that was not yet ready for it. But they were lauded for their efforts later, but they were crucified literally during their times. Now, I don't know if the Buddha was, I don't think Lao Tzu was, but Christ clearly was. But then you've got modern day, I would not compare, because I don't want hate mail, but I wouldn't compare, modern day like, Eckhart Tolle and, oh my God, who's the other, again, food poisoning at the moment. You just, Susan, I have food poisoning right now, so that's why I'm a little foggy. I'm doing pretty well, though, all things considered.
Yeah, you did great.
Yeah, thank you. But, you've got Eckhart Tolle, you've got, who else is in India, or the Buddhist that's very, anyway, it doesn't matter.
The Dalai Lama.
No, that's the one, yeah, sorry. I know that just right now. You know how, like, you try to make a thought when you're foggy? It's like,
yeah.
Dalai Lama, Eckhart Tolle, these are examples of modern day enlightened individuals. And while I would not compare them to Christ or the Buddha, I don't think they would either, because, you know, people hear of Christ consciousness. People hear of enlightenment. People hear of be the Buddha. What do these things mean? These are not esoteric terms. And some of the things I'm saying right now might sound esoteric, but they're really not. They're just, if you do a little bit of research, and you'll understand that the things that I'm saying are just the words attached to the concepts. The concepts themselves are very, very rudimentary and basic. It just, when we hear the word enlightenment, we picture, you know, monks on a mountaintop somewhere that gave up all their possessions that are, you know, that's not accessible to the average person. But it 100% is. Enlightenment is not a scary word. It's available to you right now. Enlightenment is simply the end of suffering. That's the way that Buddha defined it, the end of suffering.
Yeah.
So, you know, you kill your ego and you just become, and the biggest thing that stopped me from meditating, by the way, was I was afraid of literally losing my mind. I was afraid that if I got good at it, which
some people have, Matthew. Some people can lose their minds meditating because they're not strong enough. There's a lot of the mind that you have to strengthen before you can go into, I guess you call it certain levels or certain thoughts. A lot of people have gone crazy thinking, what was there before the beginning? I don't think we can even. I don't think we can fathom that. I feel myself
going crazy.
Yeah. People can go nuts on that one. What was there before the beginning? What will be there after the end?
Right.
Yeah.
That's not enlightenment. So if you're
But the other thing, Matthew, is enlightenment is not permanent either. Not in human form. It's fleeting. You have moments of enlightenment, or moments of satori, or moments of being one. But they're not every moment of every day. Very few people could probably achieve that, especially in modern society. You've got way too many distractions, too many noises. But you know, I like Gurdjieff a lot. I don't know if you've ever read Gurdjieff, Georges Ivanovich Gurdjieff. He wrote
definitely.
He wrote The Fourth Way, which was not really a religious way. It's more of a philosophical way mixed in with an understanding of the body, an understanding of physics, an understanding of music. And his stuff is very, very all about self-observation. If you can observe yourself acting as you do, you can change. Because now you're becoming aware of all the bad habits you have, all the good habits, and the patterns that our brains create, which now neuroscience says, we groove patterns in the brain. They're grooved. So, that explains a lot of what a lot of the old mystics said. We do groove patterns, and we groove strange patterns, and we groove prejudices and angers and this and that. And that's a hard thing to ungroove with people. Now you're Italian. Now, you'll probably get a laugh out of this, but what do Italians do? They're constantly screaming at each other, and then they have dinner, lunch, hug each other, and love each other. They can get along. They can get along. It's amazing. You know, I'm part Italian. Yeah. I've been there, done that. So it's just sort of funny. And what you're saying is totally true also, that all of these things are not mutually exclusive. They're totally inclusive of each other. When you talk about chakras, you're talking about nothing different than really an energetic form of our organs. It's not much different from physiology. It's just that you're at an energy level. Everything has energy, and people go, "No, it doesn't. I don't want to hear energy." Do you want to watch TV? Yeah.
Okay, but I have a question. Okay, so Rick, you brought this on. It's your fault. Okay, so. What do you think about the possibility of actually doing, like the people who do map dowsing and they use crystals and they ask it questions, or they have sticks and they ask them questions? What's that all about? As a person who's a student of mindfulness.
Yeah, I reserve judgment on that, just because I don't know enough about it. And even if I did, as someone that's curious about mindfulness, I wouldn't judge it anyway. It's a service that people offer. People get something out of that service. End of story to me. The way that I look at it is, as long as something's not creating widespread harm, then it should basically be left alone. You know, and something like, crystals over a person's body. Look, the placebo effect is a very real thing. Whether or not those crystals are actually doing something physiologically or not, the mind is making something happen. So if someone gets some sort of crystal reading done, or I don't know what that's all about, I haven't done the research. I have heard of it though. But if someone does that and they feel better about themselves, or that was the thing where, they see a psychic and the psychic says, your father says he forgives you. And that person starts crying, and that was the outlet that they needed, and they go on happy for the rest of their life. Even if the person never talked to that person's father, does that really matter? Some might say yes, because that's a scam, and he didn't actually do that, he just wants the money. But devil's advocate would say, yeah, but that person got something out of that. That person really actually let something very real go. So sometimes people just need a reason to let go of things, and if that's a crystal, then it's a crystal.
Well, what's funny
that. It's kind of like a technology. Oh, go ahead.
Well, what's funny about crystals? It's an electromagnetic frequency. They do vibrate, and they're doing more and more treatments right now with electromagnetic frequencies in modern medicine. And so there's not that far a divide between a crystal and magnetic frequencies, where you get some of the fakery is that people who spend $1,500 for 2 days of training and become a quote unquote master of something, they don't really know much, but they feel good, okay. But most of them, if you look at their lives, have pretty miserable lives on the whole. So they haven't really integrated anything that they've learned, and that's the 5 and 10 approach to internal development. It doesn't happen overnight. It can take some time. And it takes some discipline too, not to mention understanding of certain things. But it is interesting. I'm going through an eye treatment right now, which my eye doctor says most eye doctors think is something a nut job would do. But what it is it's a red laser, and I have really bad eyes, so it's a red laser, and he just does a 3-minute treatment on each eye. And I can tell you, in my first treatment, I went from having about a field of view of maybe 90 degrees or combined to I'm almost at 180 again on one treatment.
Is this glaucoma?
No, I have retinitis pigmentosa. I have retinitis pigmentosa and a little bit of macular degeneration. And retinitis makes your eyes go blind from the outside in. Well, it brought back literally about 60% on each eye in field of view. That was in one treatment. I sat there going, oh my gosh.
Wow.
But there's an end part of this treatment.
My
so
friend
good.
Yeah, but there's an end part of the treatment which fascinated me. What they're finding is that red laser, with time, clicks on the body's ability to regenerate stem cells in itself to heal itself. Now, I just went, wow, that is incredible. So I've had 3 treatments. He said it takes a year or 2 to really get all the way in, and it's pretty new still, but I've seen a lot of improvements just in the 3-4 treatments I've had every 6 to 8 weeks. But at the end, stem cells, it generates the body's autoimmune system to help itself. And that's fascinating. Electromagnetic frequencies through the laser, and we're seeing all sorts of stuff. There's a device you can buy on Amazon called an OSCA, O-S-K-A. I had pulled my back several years back traveling, and it was hurting. I'll go, darn, this is not feeling good. Nothing was helping it. So I bought this device. It's about like a little egg shape, and you put it on back, wherever you have pain, and literally in about 2 uses, most of my pain was gone. And I gave it to my doctor, by the way, the eye doctor who's doing because he was dying. He was dying from his back pain. And now he's given gifts of that to I don't know how many people. He goes, this thing's amazing. He goes, he used to have to commute from Ventura to L.A. all the time during traffic, and his back was killing him. Now he takes it with him, puts it on his back, no pain. So that's electromagnetic. Crystals. We're not all that far, are we? It's kind of cool.
Yep.
That's so interesting. Well, so another question about Buddhism and mindfulness and meditation. What are the main changes that you've seen in your life as you've gone through your journey of increasing mindfulness?
How much time do we have here? Because I could talk for hours. The first immediate thing that the first thing that happened was I finally understood why all the negative voices were in my head my whole life. It was the ego. I thought that I was the ego. I was fully identified with my ego my entire life. And through reading The Power of Now and through meditating and things, I discovered that we are not the ego. There's actually two selves. Well, it's not really a self, but for some people, the ego is the self, right? And when I realized that, I was able to learn that I am the infinite consciousness behind the ego. I am the observer. And that was the biggest revelation that anyone listening right now should understand, is that the ego is this thing that has become dysfunctional through, the thousands of years that we've been on this earth. Actually, no, what is it, million? What have we been, 6 million years we've been here? Something like that? Anyway. So the 6 years that we've been on planet Earth, that the ego was intended to keep us safe. It was intended to keep keep us from running out of the cave and getting eaten by a lion. We started to realize, there's lions out there. We have to be afraid of that. We have to be afraid of this. We have to be afraid of that. But over time, as we evolved, the same threats did not exist anymore. So now you've got this part of the brain that's constantly looking for danger, constantly looking for what's going to go wrong next. And realistically, nothing's going to go wrong that's going to kill you. You might, have someone call you a poop face on the highway. Okay, well, that's as bad as it's going to get today, or the boss yells at you. Like, very few people have an actual gun to their head, or are in North America, that are facing immediate life or death scenarios. There is poverty, there are things of that nature, but the vast majority of us live in such a comfy way of life. Even if you're broke, you live comfortably. Like, visit South Africa. I've been there. Like, change your perspective.
Oh, yeah.
So perspective, I would say. Perspective, and that is not to be taken lightly, the fact that I found perspective. Because once you realize that, then everything just starts to fall into place, and you start to have leaps and bounds of realizations after that, and it's incredible.
And you made the same comment that Gurdjieff makes.
That's wonderful.
It's about the observer, because the observer is what can see what's actually going on in the brain, in the behaviors, the patterns of behavior, the good and the bad. And if you can observe yourself in the bad, you can change it. It may take a while, but you can change it. If you have no idea how you're behaving, like most people, they don't know what to change. They just keep acting in a very repetitive, negative way. And our brain is interesting because, like you said, our ego can be very negative and has a good negative dialogue. So you've got to turn that dialogue around and block it so it doesn't constantly threaten you, because it threatens you as well as everybody else sometimes. But that's interesting. We are actually out of time, and I know you've got a premiere to go to. This is fun. The conversation went a little different from what we thought, but hey, that makes it interesting.
Sorry, I don't know what we were supposed to be talking about.
I don't either. But
any opportunity that I can to sort of spread the message of mindfulness.
Yep.
It's something that anyone listening right now will benefit from. Anybody, I don't care who you are. I don't care if you've been doing yoga for 20 years or if you've never done yoga. I don't know why I'm saying yoga, but it's just an example. If you're like 99% of the people out there that feel like you're in the matrix, like something's wrong, like there's a splinter in your mind and you can't quite explain what it is, that's what mindfulness does for you, meditation. I highly recommend reading The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. From there, read his other books, like Stillness Speaks, as well as A New Earth. It's gonna really change your life if you stick with it.
Yeah,
I like that. It's wonderful.
And Matthew, when we brought you on, we were thinking you're fun, you're interesting, and you are, by the way. But it is interesting because there's that other side of you, which I sort of suspected might have been there, just the way you wrote and the way you did things. And yeah, it comes through. You're funny when you do your podcast and stuff. Sometimes you're more serious, but it comes out. There's something about you that came out that, and you have a very genuine smile too. That helped. But you're bright. You're very bright. You obviously know where you're heading, and you're smart enough to take a month off, which is good, because that rejuvenates those creative juices, and that's important.
Gives you a chance to eat and get sick.
Yeah, that's true. But anyway, hey, we really appreciate you coming on and sharing yourself with us. And if you're up for it, we'd love to have you back on another day. Let's get a little more into this, because there's some really good stuff we're touching upon, which could help anyone.
I agree.
It could help anyone at any time.
Absolutely. Well,
Yeah. Oh, we have one last question we didn't ask you before we go. Susan?
Okay, so I kind of got to this question earlier, but what is it in your life that has given you an edge in life? So life edge.
That made you successful.
True. Passion for what I do.
Oh, wonderful.
Passion in all things I do. You really have to, people word it in different ways. Some people say you have to be in love with the process. I just say passion. If you have passion for what you do, you're going to naturally fall in love with the process. You're going to naturally fall in love with the hard work that it takes to get to where you need to be. So for me, it was just believing in myself and being passionate.
I agree. That's a good one.
Woohoo!
Yeah. Anyway, again,
Yay!
Matthew, thanks so much for coming on. Much success and good luck. I don't really believe in luck. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep that passion going. You'll get exactly where you want to go, and I'm sure you're getting there as you're going. So appreciate it. Have a good one. Enjoy your outing tonight, and we will put your information in the show notes before, so people can join that podcast and just get to know more about you, and also be entertained by you, because you really are a good entertainer with facts and information and other things. So we thank you, and I'm sure everybody else will thank you too. So have a good one, and we'll see you soon.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Please subscribe.
Oh.
And we're done.